because it is 9 o'clock and there will probably be people jumping on, but I'm Sharon Tusink and I manage the office in the Champions office. And as I was saying before, maybe before some of you got on, we are having a panel today and some of our top producers of our office have agreed to share what they do on open houses. And I think you're going to find it very interesting. The people that we have are, first we have Lucia Clark of the Lucia Clark team. And Lucia does open houses all the time. Her team was platinum. She did over 20 million. And she's going to tell you that there probably isn't a weekend she doesn't do an open house. We have Sally Beck. Sally Beck's also one of our platinum agents, longtime agent at Gary Green, consistent top producer. And again, she does a geographic farm, Lucia does a geographic farm, and they continually do open houses every weekend. And then Suzanne Mason, I wanted to particularly have her and have some of you that are brand new hear her because she's only been in the business about 2.5 years. She doesn't have a particular geographic farm. There's kind of some areas she specials in, but not the typical thing that's one neighborhood, but has absolutely taken her business from brand new, taken off, and is platinum last year, open houses. So again, you've got some of the experts in the field here that we're going to share with. So if it's okay with you guys, what we're going to do is mute everybody except our speakers. I thought that the way we could cover everything so that we're sure that the topics that you want to know are covered is that I'm going to be asking them the questions so that we can kind of keep it moving and we don't get off onto tangents and things like that, which can sometimes bog it down and you're like, yeah, I know that, but why don't they move on, right? And then at the end, we're going to open the mic up and then anyone that has questions, and you will, but if you want to also put them in chat and because you think you're going to forget the question or whatever, then feel free to do that. So that being said, happy St. Patrick's Day. And we want to welcome everybody here and we're going to begin. And I did tell them what the questions were going to be. I guess this is kind of like, we didn't want to make it stump the top producers, like, we're going to ask them trick questions or anything. And so they had a little time to think about it, but I didn't tell them that I would like them just to kind of, number one, I told you a little bit about them, but just quickly tell about yourself. And Lucia, would you start and just kind of tell them what area you work in and how long you've done it, and et cetera.
Sure. Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Lucia Clark, and I have a team with 3 other agents. We primarily work the North Houston area, Spring, Klein, Tomball, that area. And I've done this a little over about 6.5 years. So.
She was the top rookie, right? And consistently does a great job. And we've seen her build a team, which is, if she's wonderful about sharing. Maybe we'll do something on that if somebody's interested in that topic, because building a team is pretty daunting. And she's done it very well. Okay, next we have Sally Beck. Sally? Oops, we can't. You're muted.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you. I've been in the business about 17 years. I was in the corporate world prior to that. I live in Champion Forest, so I do a lot of listings in Champion Forest, but I also have a lot of referral business. So I've done listings from, Tiki Island to Lake Conroe and everywhere in between. My daughter got her license in November and she has just joined me. She lives in Champion Forest also. So we're having a lot of fun working together and I'm keeping her busy with open houses too.
Sally had a listing in Tiki Island and it was $1 million house and she just had to go have open houses there every single weekend. I think she was sorry when that one, but that sale was a nice sale. Yeah. And then Suzanne, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good morning. Thank you, Sharon, for having me today. I'm Suzanne Mason, and I've been in the business about 2.5 years. I, too, am from the corporate world, and I'm systems driven. So anything that I do in real estate is organized and efficient. Open houses are about 1/3 of my business, I would think. I also got to hold that Tiki Island house open for Sally a couple times, which was fun. I started my open houses in Champions Forest a lot with Sally Beck and Wendy Roloff, allowed me to do those and kind of learned my moxie. I don't have a general area. I typically don't say no to anybody that wants my services, and I look around for open houses that are of interest to me.
Okay. All right, let's begin then. And I guess we'll just maybe switch around who goes first, because I know if you're the last person answering the question, sometimes it might be, well, ditto, right? But let's go ahead and begin by, Lucia, what do you do to prepare for your open houses? Because I've observed people rushing around here on Thursday, picking up open houses, scrambling to find signs, and running over there. And I'm positive that's not how you do it. So could you just tell us how you prepare for your open houses?
Yes, and that's one of the first things is signage. You want to check, drive it, make sure that you have directional signs, especially for the main intersections. That's kind of part of planning when we do go back to the world of getting to choose what house we want to hold open. We don't have such a shortage. That's important to know if it's good for signage. The other one is social media. Make sure that you have that house posted on social media. Just not necessarily because the people that are coming are going to see it, but because your sphere of influence will see that on there. So for marketing. And then when I first started, I went a day or two early. I knocked on every single door in the immediate area that I could get to. I knocked as many doors as I physically could and handed them a flyer and said, please come see your neighbor's house. It's going to be open on Saturday or Friday or whatever. And then also too, it's really important to use impact. You want to use the squeeze pages if you can, so you can direct that traffic back to your webpage. And there's also KV Core Open House. So just make sure you have all that set up. You do need to post the open houses on Impact a few days early. If you try to post them too late, they won't let you. So
Great, thank you.
Have all that in place.
Oh, go ahead. Sally, how do you prepare for your open house?
And that's my husband's cell phone ringing in the background. He left it when he went to get coffee. So sorry, it'll stop in a minute. Do a lot of the similar things, a couple of additional things I've done. I don't do this for every open house, but sometimes I have invited, like if I do an open house from 2 to 4, I'll invite the neighbors to come from 1 to 2, and I'll send them a special invitation, say it's for neighbors only. And that's worked well just in terms of meeting the neighbors. Particularly, I do that when it's a house that, is just gorgeous. I know everybody's going to want to see, or one where someone's done a lot of updating, because I'm in a neighborhood where homes are older and people love to see the ones that are updated. So that's worked well. And then right now, homes are flying off the market so much, I don't have time to do this. But in the past, what I've done when we knew a house wasn't going to sell immediately, I would send out my just listed cards. And on the just listed card, I would have information just listed and open on Sunday, March the 25th or whatever. Things are selling so fast now, by the time that people get the cards, we're not even probably doing the open house, but I've done that in the past and that's helped as well.
Okay, just a thought, Terry's on here, but my thought is that if they get a listing and they can make it go live Friday, they probably can at least have one open house in order to generate some more business. And then I don't know if you agree, and we'll find out, but I don't know why people say, well, I couldn't have it because it went into option pending, but you could still have an open house and option pending because the buyer in that 10 days could decide they don't want the house. So I don't know why the seller couldn't continue to offer it for people, because again, one of the reasons we do open house is not really to get buyers, but to show the neighbors what we're doing. Suzanne, how do you prepare?
A lot of similar things to Lucia and Sally. I choose my property early. I start thinking about it actually when I'm at the open houses the weekend before, and I start looking for properties, and there are a shortage of them now. So in a normal world, that's what I would do. My guide is who I'm holding the open house for. If I have listings, that's where I go first. But if I'm holding one open for another agent, a lot of agents have their their steps that they want an agent to follow when they host an open house for them. So I do that. I like the sign to go in the yard about Tuesday or Wednesday. And then of course the directional signs go up the day of. I get my sign-ins ready, my MLS deck sheet. I kind of search the area for any other properties that might fit that bill as well. I always pack extra work early in the week because you never know at an open house, it could be dead or you could have 15 people. So if there isn't anything going on, I always have work to do. And I've sat at open houses where I've gotten a lot of work done like that. So that's kind of where I go with it initially.
I might mention to anybody that's new, that's asking top producers to let them, you hold their open houses. Agents are very particular about who goes into their seller's home. And if you're late, if you're saying things you shouldn't, if you don't give feedback, if you don't show up, you're probably never going to hold another open house. And I have seen where people pick other agents that they can trust and they offer those people first the open houses. So you want to be sure that you know that you have to respect the fact this is somebody's hard-earned listing. It is a privilege to be allowed to hold those open. Okay, I'll start with you, Suzanne. How do you choose the home? I think you just kind of answered that, but because you said if it's yours, you do.
Right, if it's mine, I do. And if I have more than one, then I put it out there and ask for help. But there's a lot of ways to go about figuring out which open house to do. But lately there isn't. You just take what you can get. But in a normal situation, I look at houses that appeal to me in the area. Because even if the house has been on the market a little while, we always want one that's newly listed, but that's not always possible. But even if the house is on the market a while, I tend to get, because of my promotion, I reach back to my open house attendees that would fit this particular property if I find one like that, and I invite them. So I always think, well, I've got a pipeline that I could invite to this one, even if nobody randomly shows up. So, and that happens for me a lot. So I just pick things that are of interest or of interest to customers that have come into an open house prior that I could fit into that particular home.
Lucia, I think that you track what type of house gets the most. How do you choose your open house?
We track which houses get the most traffic on social media, and then also on when we do impact squeeze pages, we can kind of tell price point, if it has a pool, and that kind of stuff. But really, number one, if it's in my farm, that's first. If you have to take 15 turns to get to it, I'm still going to do it if it's in my farm. So the first one is location. The second one would be signage is good. I mean, if you don't have to take that many turns and you can put a sign on the major road, that's helpful. I really do look at how many days it's been on the market, because it's been on the market a really long time. It's your frequent flyer open house visitors have already seen it. You may catch some, and it's probably already been held open. And then an agent on my team, as far as what day do you do, mainly it's Saturday, Sunday, 2 to 4, because that's what people expect. But an agent on my team says you do it every day until you figure out what works. So I have to quote her, because I think that's pretty impressive. I mean, she'll go in there on a Tuesday just to see what happens. And I used to not get a lot of traffic during the week, Thursdays and Friday open houses, but now with people working from home, the traffic has really increased on like Thursday and Friday afternoon, because they're home already and they see it and they come. We're not waiting until 6 o'clock until people get off work, and then they can only come on the weekends.
Didn't you say in your area, houses with pools usually will get more traffic?
Yes, if it's my own listing, I will actually change the order of the pictures so that the main picture is the picture with the pool. And then I'll do my impact squeeze page, because it pulls the first picture. And then I'll take it back to normal, but a lot of times we put the pool first. But yeah, if we do a squeeze page or a posting with a pool, it gets more hits than the others. And then the second thing that we look at is price.
And Sally, how do you choose the home?
I've been doing this long enough that I'm always hosting my own listings. Certainly anything that's a brand new listing, we try to do open houses right away. And we've been doing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, an open house blitz as soon as it's listed. We do Friday afternoon, 2 to 4, same thing, Saturday and Sunday. And like Lucia said, we are getting traffic on Fridays. People are working from home. Even if they've gone back to the office, a lot of companies have Friday afternoons off or every other Friday off. So in the past, I picked up listings from people who visited Friday afternoon open houses, and that wasn't the house for them, but I helped them find another one and help them sell theirs. So that's worked well. When I have listings in other parts of town outside of Champion Forest, I just base it on who's my neediest seller, who do I need to please the most that weekend. And if I need to do one away from Champion Forest, then I get another agent, somebody wonderful like Suzanne, who can host in Champion Forest, and I'll go elsewhere.
And the next question, Sally, and I know you talked about this, if you could do it first. There's agents, particularly new agents, that say, oh, I had 15 people, but no one wants to sign in. No one wants to, or they give me bogus numbers. I know you have been successful. How do you get them to sign in and, so that you can follow up with them?
Yeah. I have been very successful on getting people to sign in. I don't ask them to do it when they first arrive. I wait until they've looked around the house, until we've talked a little bit and there's a little bit of rapport. I do it the old-fashioned way. I've decided it's the best, and I have a physical sign-in sheet. And before the open house starts, I sign in on the first line one of my 2 daughters' names with everything: name, address, email, telephone number, everything. And it's funny, if somebody else has already filled it out, people just fall in right behind that and they fill it all out also. So don't put a blank piece of paper there. Already have a name and address and phone number filled in, and that seems to work well. A lot of times what I'll say is, as people are walking through the house, I'll say, I have a sign-in sheet in the kitchen. If you wouldn't mind signing in, that'll help me keep track of the number of people that we've had here today for the sellers. And people are happy to do it. And what I've done with COVID, when I started back, as soon as we could advertise open houses on HAR in May, I started back immediately, because I try to do open houses every weekend. And I tried to figure out a way that people could feel comfortable signing in. I had hand sanitizer there. And finally, what I wound up with is I ordered pens from Amsterdam Printing. They come individually cellophane wrapped. It has all of my contact information on it. So I'll tell people, this is my nod to COVID, open a pen, use it to sign in, and take it with you. And everybody seems to love that. So that's worked out really well. And they've got my pen with all my information on it.
And didn't you say once about withholding some information or getting back to them?
Yeah, it's interesting. I always, at my listings, I always have information about the neighborhood, as well as a brochure about the property and other pieces of information. But if someone asks me, well, what are the utility costs here? Or, what's the age of the AC unit, or that kind of thing, I know that information, but what I say is, I've got all that information at my office. After the open house, I'll be glad to send it to you. Let me make sure I've got a good email address for you. So I don't give him everything. It gives me a good reason to follow up. It lets me double check the email address to make sure I can read it, because sometimes people write so you can't read. So if someone has asked for information, we'll go back to the sign-in sheet and I'll say, let me make sure I can read your email address. And that's worked well as follow-up too.
Perfect. Lucia, how do you capture the names?
I use either paper, or I use the KV Core Impact Open House, the KV Core Open House app on my iPad, and I write or I type. It helps because they don't want to touch the pen right now, and they don't want to touch the iPad. But also, if I write their name, I know I'm going to be able to read it. And then I'm going to remember their name a little better if I actually wrote it down than if they just said it. And then the other thing, for some reason, when you're just talking to someone and writing their info, they're so much more likely to tell you legitimate info than to just leave that blank. And then on the app, if you use the app, when they type their email in, they get a text asking if they want to get alerts. So, I mean, I have myself signed up as a open house attendee, and I get alerts all the time. Every time a house similar to that one goes on the market, I'll get a text. So, and it just kind of keeps reminding them this is similar to what you looked at.
What dialogue do you use to, like, let's say that I'm walking in and you introduce me, how do you just flat ask and they tell you, or do you let them look first, or how?
Yeah, I let them look around. I'm not pushy or right at the I don't ask them, would you like to sign up? I tell them, I'm going to sign you in here. And I have your name. I just don't even give them an option. I'm like, I'm signing you in. And no, they're just like, oh, okay, I guess that's what we have to do.
Well, they're looking at somebody else's house. Out of respect to the seller, they ought to at least tell you who they are. Suzanne, what about you? How do you capture names?
Do you mind signing in? No, I'm just like, I'm signing you in.
Okay. Suzanne.
Well, I have a fairly good, just to kind of give you an overview, I have a fairly good elevator speech when they come in the door about give them a summary of the property, even though I always say you've probably seen it online, and 10 times out of 10 they have. It's a random thing that they just pop in. They do sometimes. And then I say, check out the house. And then when you're done, come in, give me some feedback, let me know what you think. I have a sign-in sheet. I did have a sign-in sheet that was pretty basic. And this year, I feel like I have to get a little more aggressive to get to my goals. So as I learn, I feel like I'm getting better and better at it. So I have another sheet that I have fill out that has a lot. And I sometimes do what Lucia does too. I fill it out for them because they don't want to touch anything. And I have a bunch of other questions that over the 2.5 years, I felt like, oh, I wish I would have asked that, or, oh, I wish I'd have asked this. So I've kind of formulated that, and it's working out really well. I use the KV Core app as well. And I say, my seller likes to know who's been in the house. They like to have some feedback, and I do what Sally does because Sally has trained me well, that we don't give all the information out right at the start. So we have a reason to contact them again, to follow up. And so that's kind of how I go about it. And sometimes they don't sign in, and sometimes I know they are not interested in me, not interested in the house, and I have learned to kind of move past that and go, work on somebody that does want my services. So,
Suzanne, do you give anything away? I know Sally said pens, but do you give anything away?
Well, I do actually. I have my koozies that I put water in. A lot of people take them. I have pens like Sally does too. Another thing that I do, unless it's a really, really hot day, is I do the balloons in our office that are easy enough to do. And if you're organized and you're just stopping in the office just before your open house and it's in the area, the balloons are easy enough to do, and it kind of draws a little attention. That's kind of old school, but it's easy and they're here in the office. So I would use them if you can and tie them to your sign. And so that's that.
Well, it would attract the neighbors' attention too, that you were actually doing that. And Sally, you said you gave away pens, but
pens, and then if it's a home in Champion Forest, because that's where a lot of my business is, I had these koozies done that on the front say, I love Champion Forest, and on the back have my contact information. So if I'm hosting one in Champion Forest, then I've got those there and I give them away, and people love to take them. They're like, can I take more than one? So, sure.
Oh no, don't take any more. Alicia, what about you? Do you give anything away?
Sharon, my computer is lagging. Can you unmute Goya? I have hers.
Okay, Linda.
Sorry, guys.
Okay,
Sorry, guys.
I don't show that I have Goya muted.
I just unmuted her. Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I just switched computers. Mine's frozen. Okay, what question are we on?
What do you give anything away?
Yes. So we still give, I mean, we still put sodas and waters and that kind of stuff in the fridge if we have it. People are okay with, with taking stuff that's closed up. And then we'll give away snacks that are packaged, usually something they can take with them. It really depends. I mean, if I have a really, really nice house with white carpet, I'm not going to give some kid a chocolate chip cookie. So it kind of depends. And a lot of times we use leftovers from Popeyes, maybe if we got too much. And we'll just put that in a basket at the open house. Like on Valentine's Day, we had leftover candy from Popeyes. So we just threw those in a basket too.
I know this is about open houses, but I know that everybody's could you just briefly say what a Popeye is and what you do at it?
Yeah, we just put a cute little note, like for Valentine's, we put a little note that said your referrals are sweet or something like that. I can't, what did they say? Your referrals? Something to the effect of your referrals are the sweetest part of our business. And we attached it to some candy hearts and passed them out. And so we had we had some of those left over. So we actually used those to pass out at our open houses in February.
So before that though, you went to past clients at the door. And how many doors did you knock on and give that stuff?
I don't know. I gave everybody about 25 to 30, but usually we just leave it on the porch. Just a little, if sometimes we leave sidewalk chalk, sometimes we leave candy, just things like that.
And it's to your past clients and customers or your neighborhood or both?
Our sphere and past clients.
Okay.
So yeah, we use leftovers. So.
Okay,
like
so
stuff.
now that you're, let's start with you this time. What is your follow-up system? Because I think that's what people tell me is the key, that they don't follow up enough, but obviously you do. How do you follow up?
Well, if you use the KV Core Open House app, it follows up for you. So that's one good tool that's automated. And the other is a handwritten letter. And sometimes they may not give you their address, but if you have a conversation with them and they tell you their name, they live down the street or they live a few blocks over, you can find it on HCAD. So we'll look it up and we'll send a handwritten note and then usually ask them, would you like us to follow up with a phone call? And if they say yes, we do call. So if we can get their number, but we try really, really hard to make sure we can get their address. And I've even told people I'd love to have your address because I just want to drop you a note. And then they usually say, okay. So
I think some people might be a little, think it's too, quote, pushy to put open house people on the KV Core app, but obviously you have. And do you find that people say, take me off, or it doesn't matter if they say take me off or what?
If they want to be taken off, they just stop the alerts. So it asks, I mean, I have it sent to myself and you can just turn it off if you want to. So,
okay. So even if they give you a name or whatever, you're still going to just pop them in that open house thing so that you're sure they're followed up.
If they give me their email, I put them in Impact.
Okay. And Sally, what's your follow-up system?
I'll do either handwritten notes or emails, and like I say, I make notes during the open house about what I may have talked with somebody about so that I can personalize it, not just thanks for coming to the open house, but thanks for coming, glad to know that you're thinking about moving to the area, or somebody may have asked about daycare in the area and I'll send them some information, or if they ask about the utilities on the house, I'll send them that. So I try to do a specific follow-up when I can, if I've had a conversation with somebody and they're either interested in something or ask a question.
So you do that, because it would seem like the intention would be to write a handwritten note or to follow up, but that you have the open house on Sunday and you go into your office and phone starts blowing up on Monday. And do you have a system where you just make sure that you, when would you write that note or that email after the open house?
I do some of them the night of the open house, and then that doesn't always work for 100% of them. So then I try to do the next day, and every once in a while, I find myself on Tuesday going, oh, I still have to do that. So, best laid plans is to do it that night, because when it's all fresh in my mind, but sometimes it's another day or two before I get them all either emailed or handwritten.
I'm interested in this high-tech world that you guys still feel like handwritten notes are working. And I guess if they go to 4 or 5 open houses, probably you're the only one that's going to send them a handwritten note. Do you want to quickly speak to why you, I suppose have you gotten comments on it, or do you feel like, why do you do the handwritten, spend the time for the handwritten note? Sally or Lucia?
I think people really appreciate it. And I think the big part about this business, at least for me, is, creating relationships with people. And that's what you're trying to do with the open house, is just not necessarily sell a house that day, but you're trying to create a rapport with somebody. And I think that's just an additional way to set yourself apart and further that rapport building.
I think that's important if somebody's new and on here, that I think that sometimes new people think if that they didn't get a buyer for that house that day, that open house was a flop. But that's if they got a name and somebody to follow up with, then it would be a success. Suzanne, what is your follow-up system?
My follow-up system is, first of all, if I'm holding the open house for my own listing, I tell my seller what the feedback was. If I'm holding the open house for another agent, that's the first place that I go with the feedback, because they want to know. And then I work on the customers that come in the house. Sometimes it's Sunday, when I get home, if I have time. Sometimes I scrub them on Monday. Sometimes I just look at them and I figure out then, how critical is it that I get back with them? If there's a listing involved and somebody wants if I've offered a comparative market analysis and they're hot on it, I actually go home and I work on that and I have a report. I don't do it with everyone, but I kind of figure out who's the triage in it all. And when you're talking about when new agents sit at an open house and think that it's a flop. So when I first started, I have to tell you this little story quickly, that I was probably my 8th open house in my career, and I was on Ashridge Park, and there were probably 15 people in there. I was overwhelmed, and there was a gal in there FaceTiming her mother in Arizona, and they bought the house. Not for me, they had an agent, but I thought it was a flop until I walked out and looked at my list, and I gained 3 very good clients, listing and buys. So I get what you're saying when you're new, because I'm way newer than Lucia and Sally. So I still feel that pain a little bit. But so that taught me that day that there isn't an open house that's a flop, because even if nobody comes in, you have work to do and you get it done. Right. So, yeah.
And Suzanne, I know you do video. So do you do video to promote your open house or at the open house?
I do video. I've done a couple live this year that I hadn't done before. But I do video of the house that I'm going to be holding open. Sometimes I do video at the end of the open house when everybody's gone, because if I get rushed by people, then that video chain kind of gets broken. But then I do video at the end of it. I video myself at the property, thanking the customers for coming in, and I have their numbers and I text that to them, or you can do that through the KV Core.
Well, could you say that again? Because that's a new tip. You do a video text.
Yes.
And so what would you say in that video text?
So I just thank them for coming in the open house, and I say the address and the price point, and I really enjoyed meeting you. If there's anything else I can do. And as I'm standing in the house, not literally videotaping, but standing in one spot in the house, like at the front door or something. And then I send that. You can do it through KV Core just from your phone, and text that to them, a thank you to them. And people respond. They're like, oh, that is so cool. Well, I can't do it every time, but that's one thing that I do, because I think, like Lucia and Sally said, we're trying to make a connection. We would love to sell the house that we're standing in. That's always my goal, whether it's my listing or somebody else's listing. However, it doesn't always work out like that, but we do want to gain them as clients and to make a connection. People watch video. That's what they're doing with their eyes all the time. And, we've been trained like that. So, and if people aren't doing video, that's okay too, because video doesn't work for everybody. But I find that it has worked tremendously well for me.
So when you do it, you boost it, or do you've done some live, or do you record it ahead of time, or what?
Well, sometimes ahead of time, sometimes during, sometimes after, and then I push it out on all my social media. So I have probably 6 to 8 places that it'll go. And people come when they come to the open house. Some of my sphere comes in. Another thing that I do too is push that video out to those customers that have coming into another open house that the price point is the same, generally the same. So I always invite them too, whether it's by video. A lot of times I send them a video specifically about this house. If I do it before, during, whatever it is, and to try to pull them out too, because I know what they're looking for. And sometimes I can go into the house and go, this is perfect for so-and-so. But I've already done my homework earlier in the week about who I'm going to invite to that open house that have come into past open houses. I mean, it's a process and a systems driven process for me.
Okay, and I know I've seen your videos. You're getting brave, Lucia. I saw a couple this week. So, but what about open houses? Video at the open house or before or after? What do you do?
Okay, I'm really, really bad at it, and it's a goal to be better. So
You're not bad at it.
I watch Suzanne Mason's videos and then try to motivate myself to be like her. So I'm so bad about it. And then, but yes, I plan to do better. I do not like to see myself on video walking around the house. It's just awkward. So I've done a couple where, I have done a few, but it's definitely something I need to work on. But we're working on it. So
well, we went to a training class, the managers, and what stuck out to me is the guy said, my horrible video is better than your non-existent video every day.
Yes, that's so true. The person.
So when I look at myself and I go, oh God, I think at least I'm doing it, right?
I know. It's like I remind myself, slow as I'm jogging, I'm doing better than if I was home on the couch. So I'm getting there. But no, it really is. I really don't even know if it's okay for me to speak to it, because I will put some stuff on Facebook and we'll put things on there. Can't really make a big deal out of coming soon anymore, but we can say that it's staging day and photography day, and watch our Facebook page for some videos. One thing that we really did get a lot of traffic on when COVID started, we started doing professional videos of every home, and we put all of those on our Facebook page, and people told us that they loved those. They're professional, they have music that goes with them, you can really see the inside of the house. So we did get a lot of good feedback from that. But as far as putting my face on the camera walking around the house, I'm not very good at it yet.
I did see your video yesterday. Would you share that with the Girl Scout cookies and what you're doing for the open houses?
Sure. I don't know how to play the video from here because I had to switch over to somebody else's computer, but I'll recreate it for you. So
okay.
Just held up a little sign. I said who I was, and I said, what's selling faster than houses? I held up a little sign. I said cookies. And so I went to the neighborhood Girl Scouts and bought several boxes of cookies and just said, like and follow our Facebook page so you can find out where these open houses will be this weekend, because if you're the first 10 people to show up, you get a free box of cookies.
I thought that was super creative, and I probably attend just to get those cookies.
Well, and we can't, you can't give single cookies away anymore. So I remember even last year we were literally just giving boxes of Girl Scout cookies away because I can't put out a tray of cookies in the middle of a pandemic. So we sort of just kind of followed that through to now.
That's great creative ideas. So you did one video, you don't do a lot, but that one I think was very unique. Sally, what about you? Are you using video at all at your open house?
The real answer is no. So, but I'm going to try. And I did, right, when the pandemic first hit last spring and HAR created the virtual open houses that you could do, I did do some of those in April, in early May, when we couldn't do in-person open houses. And my very first one I did, I had to laugh. I watched them. I knew what I needed to do. And I thought, well, they're only going to see me in front of the house for 2 seconds as I introduce the house. Then I'm going to turn the camera around and walk through. So I thought, well, I'm not meeting people in person. So I just had on, a shirt that looked nice for the quick up close view when I introduced the house. And then I had on a pair of khaki shorts and some flip flops because it wasn't an in-person. Right as I got to the front door, had the camera on the front door. Right as I got to the front door, I all of a sudden remembered that the master bathroom was filled with mirrors, floor to ceiling, everywhere. So I was like, oh my gosh. So I walked through the house, and when I got to the master bath, I just laughed, and I said, I forgot about this bathroom. Look at all these wonderful mirrors. So I said, I'm kind of casually dressed today. So I was like, oh, well. So I need to do video, and I'm going to start. So.
Okay, Suzanne, you're the one that's been doing the shortest amount, and probably do remember back at your first open houses. So there are some people that maybe haven't done them that are going to try to do them after this. What did you do in the beginning at your open houses that you stopped doing now? Or what did you learn? Like if you said, I wish somebody would have told me that. Or is it just the more you do, the more you get it?
Well, what I know for sure is that when I first started, I was petrified, and I was a secret agent, and I sat very politely, and I had everything done and ready, and I would let people in and just walk around, and I really asked no questions. I didn't really know what to ask, but as I started going, I was like, well, I'm not going to sit here, for 2 hours and not get my moxie going and speak to people. So what I did at the first open houses, I think I learned my moxie and who I was going to be as an agent. And so in the early days, I remember I didn't ask any questions, really. I just asked them if they would sign in. If they didn't want to, that was fine. But one day I said, has anybody asked you, do you have a house to list? And they said, yes. And I said, has anybody offered you a free comparative market analysis? And they said, no. And I said, well, I'll offer you one. And that was game on. After that, it was over. And so then I just figured out I couldn't be a secret agent. I had to get out there. And if they didn't like me, whatever. Nobody really has ever said that, or if they didn't respond to me, but for the most part, people respond to that. But I think I was too secret an agent, but I didn't really know what I was doing. But open houses have taught me a whole lot about real estate and the public and the consumer and the sellers. It's taught me a whole lot. And so that's probably, and I overthought a lot of stuff. I would take a whole binder of a contract thinking, oh my God, somebody's going to come in here and buy this house today. And of course that doesn't happen. And it doesn't matter if they do. I can go back to my office and do the contract. But those are the things that jump back at me when I started. But it was a good learning experience. I enjoyed it. I enjoy getting out in the open houses, and I'm much better at it today than I was. I'm more professional, and I'm more business, savvy businesswoman right up front now than I was when I started. But you have to go through those pains.
So is there anything that you think that we could have done when you were new, or do you think you just have to experience it? Is there something that you think that, as there's managers on here and Terry, that we could have done to prepare you better, or was part of it just you got to feel it? Speak to that, please.
Yeah, I think I was trained very well. I think Better Homes and Gardens does a good job of that. I think that the listing agents that I hosted for also gave me a lot of tips and tricks. I think you just have to get your boots on the ground and do it. I don't think that it was anybody. It's just all of it has to happen. And I think that's what I think. So
if you're not good at it, you get tired of sitting there with no leads. And then finally you decide that you can't be a hostess, right? It sounds like. Okay, Sally, what about you? You've done it a long time, and you might have changed how you do things over the years too.
Yeah.
But if there was someone that's just starting to do open houses or hasn't had luck, what is it that you wished you would have done before that you're doing now?
Well, something I'm not doing in the beginning, I felt like I needed to have refreshments at every open house. And I was even baking cookies. So you had that wonderful, fresh baked cookie smell. And then you have to go, okay, I need the cookie sheet and I need an oven mitt and I need a platter and I need a spatula and I need this and I need that.
Wow.
And I got tired of doing that. So I was like, forget it. So I'm not here to entertain them. So I stopped doing refreshments. My only time I occasionally do it is if I have a house where I've invited the neighbors in for that first hour, I might do something then. And if I'm doing one in August and it's really hot, I might bring bottled water. But I decided it's an extra step. It's a lot of stuff to carry and I don't do that. I think a great thing to do is to make sure you have your own open house signage with your picture and your name and your contact information on that. And my husband's my sign guy. So I make sure he gets, I'll put the sign in front of the house early, but it's those neighborhood signs, directional signs. I think it's really important to spend the money to get your signs with your picture and your name and your phone number on them. Because even if people don't attend your open house, if they drive through the neighborhood and they see your sign 6 or 8 times, that's important too. So I think that's very well worth doing.
Here's a tip. As we do a lot of open houses in our area on the weekends, and I'm driving by them all the time, and please make it big enough to where people can read your name and read your telephone number, because it might look good on the proof because it's sitting on a computer screen, but there's times that I'm sitting there at a stoplight and I'm looking and I can barely see who it is, right? So you want to, I would say, get it as big as you can get it and make sure. And then one of the benefits of open houses is supposedly the public, the strangers, have to see your name 7 times before they even know who you are. So you're doing a geographic farm and you do one mail out that's 50 cents each every month. It's going to be, let's see, it'll be October now before anybody would even remember who you are. If your sign is in somebody on the corner in the neighborhood and somebody drives in and out like I do every 5 minutes on the weekend doing errands, they're going to see your name maybe 4, 5, 6 times. And you can see, I've seen so many people grow their geographic farm by doing that. One of the ladies, I thought it was brilliant, had Friday afternoon open houses, put the sign by the carpool line on the elementary school. So when the parents were lined up, her sign was there saying open house. And so you say, well, did anybody come on Friday afternoon? Well, it didn't matter if anybody came on Friday afternoon because she got that much exposure. So people, notice that and they know you're working. Lucia, what did you do when you first started doing open houses that you don't do now, and why?
I don't freak out if no one shows up. I took it personally insulting if no one came to my open house. I thought I was doing something wrong. I was like this. I was convinced that open houses were horrible and they were never going to work for me. And I think I might have even been whiny about it. And I might have come to you guys. And you're like, well, it's about marketing too. And so then I saw somebody and he goes, I see your signs everywhere. And I was like, yeah, I'm thinking to myself, the last 3 open houses, nobody even came. And then I was like, wait a minute. He just told me he saw my signs everywhere. So then I was like, okay, that was a success. I may have sat there and read a book the whole time I was there, done paperwork because nobody came in. But then I realized, it was just as important to tell people, hey, there's a house over there. Maybe you want to look at it later, or, hey, here's my name and phone number. So yeah, I stopped taking it personally if people didn't come. But now they're so crowded that that's not really an issue anymore.
Yeah.
You know, you have a line out the door. So
How do you handle that? I didn't ask that on the thing, but like if you have yourself and there's multiple people, is it just maybe you don't handle it? How do you get the people's names, or do you limit the number of people that can come in?
yeah, I'm laughing because Goya's sitting across from me giggling too, because we just had this happen. So we had more than one agent, which does help, but we had 24 families, like groups of people at a Friday open house, and then we had 19 on a Saturday open house. So we just made sure we had plenty of manpower. And it's kind of my thinking, if there's too many people and you don't want to come in, don't come in. If you really, really want to see this house and you're really in the market and you're serious about this, even if there's 10 other families, you're still going to go in. So it was quite crowded, but everybody was nice, respectful. They went in and out. We didn't limit the number of people. The house was big. We had plenty of space, and it didn't seem to be an issue for anyone. We just made sure we had enough agents there. I actually came in and started answering questions because there just needed to be more than one of us, you know, physically in the house.
So what about, I know that some of our brand new people are having a little trouble getting open houses now because they sell so quickly. Would it be good for an experienced agent to say to a new person, you know, the leads are going to be mine, but if you would like to see how I do it and experience it and then get some more people? And because I think there would be people that would love to do that just to watch what you say. Do you think that would be a good idea? Or
I think it would be really helpful just to have more than one person in there just to help guide the traffic and answer questions. I mean, if you go into a store to buy something and there's 10 people that need the salesperson and you can't get what you need or your questions answered, it's very frustrating. So as a consumer, I think I would rather have more people there to help. So I think it'd be a really good idea.
I didn't say I was going to ask this, but Suzanne, how do you handle the multiple people in there? Because I think it is an issue.
It is an issue and it gets frustrating. But I try my best, and some people get around me and sneak out, but I still, like if I'm doing my thing at the front door and then send a couple off. And so particularly during COVID, I've run into the situation numerous times, and I ask them to go to the next family to start in the opposite end and please remain 6 feet apart, et cetera, and then stop back with me and sign in. My husband attends with me. He's my licensed assistant. And when he can attend with me, he does. And if I know it's going to be a big open house, I utilize him at the door when they're going out. And he always makes sure that they sign in and kind of get some more information from them. I never have a problem with new agents shadowing me if they want to see how I do my thing. And sometimes they can take a little bit of the pressure off too. But it can be a thing. But I'm with Lucia. Like if they really want to see the house, then make an appointment and I'll show it to you another time. You know what I'm saying? That's a good, reasonable solution to it too.
What about you, Sally? What happens when there's a lot of people?
You know, it's funny for sellers, they love it when you can tell them that you've had 15 groups of people through. As an agent, I really like it better if it's about half that many spread out over the 2 hours, and I really get to have meaningful conversations with each one. So when you have this huge group of attendees, you tend to not be able to have as meaningful of a conversation. And like Suzanne said, sometimes people come in and then they, you know, leave before you even get to talk to them. So it's a double-edged sword, I think, when you have that huge group of people. I was going to mention too, this isn't on the list as a question, but if some agents are wondering, sometimes sellers will say, well, are open houses really effective? And so my answer to that is twofold. First, I tell them that, you know, on my sign-in sheet, I ask everybody how they found out about the open house. And I would say these days, almost 100% of the people who attend have researched it online. They've either found it on HAR or on Zillow or on some other website. So you can tell sellers that these are people that are thinking real estate and researching real estate, and that's who's coming. 15 years ago, when people would sign in, they'd say, I saw the sign on the way to the grocery store or something like that. But today, open house attendees have researched online. So you can tell your sellers that, that's a real plus. And then I had 3 closings in January on my listings. The buyers on all 3 first saw the house at one of my open houses. And then they came back for subsequent visits with agents, and then they wrote offers. And then 2 of my current listings under contract are under contract with buyers who first saw the house at one of our open houses. So real buyers are attending open houses. So if you have a seller who's reluctant about open houses, that's some good information that you can give them.
Well, it seems like that they could have rejected a house, online because there was a wrong color, but when they see the street and the neighborhood and, that kind of thing too, because Gary Green's all about the right buyer, not a buyer, right?
Yeah.
That is, so the right buyer may not see it online. The right buyer could see it anywhere. Yeah. And they're the ones that are going to pay the most money. So that's why we do the reach, even though things are selling quickly, you want to sell them to the right person. Yeah. Okay, we're going to go to the chat. And then after that, we'll open the mic up and if anybody wants to ask a question. First of all, where do you get, I'm just going to read it here. Where do you get the Kiwi, please? So if you want to put it in the chat, or is that the little beverage holder, right? Was that what I think you're talking about? If you could, I think it was Sally. Do you want to put it in the chat, or if you don't know, if you email it to me, I'll email it to all of the other managers who can send it out to their agents.
I get mine from Custom Koozies, and I'll look up their website and I'll send it to you, Sharon, so we can send it out.
And then where do you order the pens?
From Amsterdam Printing.
Okay. How do you get their physical address? You have a field in your sign-in sheet. Did we answer that?
Yeah.
I think we did. Lucia, do you have any of the steps the KB Core app does to follow up? To me, it seems to bombard your prospect a bit if you use every step.
I just have it on where they put their info in, it sends them a property alert. I don't put them on a trip, or I don't put them on a campaign.
Okay, I do know, I know enough to be dangerous, and Linda's there, but there is a campaign that they have that's set up, right? But I believe you could go in and change that campaign to different verbiage, different timing if you want. Is that true, Linda?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying is KB Core says, okay, this is what we think you should say to open house people. And you can see when they send it, what they send, and how they say it. And if you think, well, I want to put them on that, but I don't want to, I just would feel like that texting them every day for the first week is not, is not what I would want to do. You can change it to make it a phone call or whatever. Do you want to speak to that, Linda?
Yeah, there is an open house campaign that is in KB Core, and it literally starts 4 hours after you have inputted the person in there. And it does start out with the text that just says, hey, thank you for visiting my open house. And then the next thing is an email, and it may be the next day. And it runs for about 6 months unless you start actively working with this particular client, and then you can take them off the campaign. But it's really good just if you can at least get them in there so that you will stay top of mind for them. And also too, if you're using KB Core and Impact and you hashtag them Champion Forest, then the next time you have an open house in Champion Forest, and let's say they didn't buy the house you just had, the next time you have an open house, you can go in and filter by the people that came to your Champion open house and re-invite them now to your next one. So it helps you stay in front of them and keeps you at top of mind with them in that area.
Okay, and Suzanne, there's a question for you because you do video. How do you send the video to Facebook with no or slow internet access? I guess sometimes if you're in someone's home and they don't have very slow internet, how would you speak to that?
Well, I send it to Dropbox and then I push it out from there. But sometimes it is what it is on the internet. I've been in houses like that too. And then I push it out after when I get home or when I get in my car, when there is good internet access. I mean, that's just something I think we all struggle with in the video world. And the younger generation is probably likely more attuned to all that than I am. I do the best I can. And sometimes it just doesn't work out the way it should, and I just roll out with it. But for the most part, or you can step outside, sometimes you can get a signal there that's better. I know that some people struggle with the live video at an open house if there's nothing there. There's the electricity's off. I mean, when we first started the COVID thing, when everyone was doing Facebook Live to show the open houses and just different things like that, we struggled with that. But it's kind of getting itself worked out. But again, I wouldn't spend a lot of time on it. Just move on and address it, when you're done or when you have a little bit of time and you can get a good signal.
Okay, so anybody can answer this. I think, have you had directional signs stolen? How can you avoid this happening?
Yes, we have a sign Nazi in Champions Forest. Right, Sally?
Yes.
I've had 2 signs stolen, one from the corner of Valero and Champions Drive and one from another place in Champions Forest. So, I'm careful. I knock on the door. I have regulars that they've told me, just put your sign up whenever you're doing an open house. Lovely, awesome. But I knock on the door. If I can't get anybody to come to the door, some of those people have come to my open house and said, hey, I saw you ring the doorbell with the Ring doorbell. They can see it was me. So, and I said, well, I was just asking if I could put a sign on the corner. And they're like, anytime you want to do that. So I always try to be polite. And if I can't get the couple of times that I haven't asked, the signs got stolen. So I think people just want to be respected.
Well, I have to say this with my management hat on. There is a $500 per sign fine that Gary Green would not probably want to pay for you. It's a state law about those type of signs, but they're not supposed, they can be on private property. Mm-hmm. And so that's why you put them on the corners. They're not the ones that make the most like find me are on the medians or the esplanades on major streets. And if you do that, you're kind of walking a fine line. If you forget to pick it up and it's there for 4 days, you're walking a fine line. But generally, unless you're in an area where you have a lot of sign Nazis, that they don't have anything else to do except run around picking up signs, mm-hmm. They need, then they usually a wink at it. If you're in subdivisions, like I know in Glenlock, as long as you don't put a gazillion signs and you don't have them up for 4 days, they'll usually just, let it go. So you have to just be kind of thinking about, but you Champion Forest, big streets, sticking it right there in the public property, you could get a warning or a sign, a fine on it. And I asked just as just because I think it's interesting about the signs, I said to one of the lobbyists at TAR, how come you guys were asleep at the wheel and didn't get the real estate agents out of this law? They were trying to get the builders, remember when they had all those bandit signs and they were everywhere and they looked horrible? That was what they were trying to do. But of course they excluded the political signs. That's okay. But the person said that you don't want to open that Pandora's box because there are people that wouldn't let you put a sign in the front yard. So you start opening up signage and you may get a worse result than if you have a sign in a public property. You could be signed, but we do have to be a little vigilant of it. Anybody else have it? Is it just part of your budget that you figure some of them are getting stolen, Lucia?
We've had more stories about stolen signs. So like the most recent was an agent put them all out put balloons on them, put them all out early. Well, she shows up for the open house early, and she noticed on the way to her open house, there weren't any of those signs that she put out. They were all laying on the porch. So she goes and she puts them all back out. Well, a couple minutes later, they're all laying on the porch again. I'm like, we really have no option but just stick them all in this our listing's front yard, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. But then another agent had all of hers in the entire neighborhood taken. So we just took a picture of her with the sign, and I typed up a little story on Facebook, and I said, apparently somebody doesn't want us to have these signs out, and we're really trying to support our sellers and sell this home. So if as many people as possible could share this post and make up for the fact that we have no signage today, that'd be great. And we got more shares than, I mean, I think we got more traffic on that house just because everybody felt so bad for her because, you know, she'd gone out there and played Frogger and put all her signs out, and then they were all gone. And those actually did disappear. So yeah, you kind of just expect that you'll make it about a year before you don't have any anymore.
Where do you, the question is, where do you get the open house sign and name and picture? And I think it's probably regional for the printing, local printers, but does anybody get it from Better Homes and Gardens, or do you?
We're getting the next set that we get, we're actually getting through you guys. Elizabeth had the name of somebody that could take care of it.
Okay.
So I know if you reach out on, I think on Happy Fox, they'll give you the ordering information on where to get some more.
Well, I didn't even know that. So there you go.
I didn't know that either until recently.
So now what about Sally and Suzanne? I know our office has some local people you might ask around your office, or who do you guys use? Because we do have people that are not other offices that live in this area.
I get mine from a company called Central Business, and you can send them the picture, you know, you can create the whole thing online and they'll send you a proof, and they can either ship them to you or pick them up. They're on 1960, so I just pick them up when they're ready. But that's who I get mine from.
And Suzanne?
Well, the marketing department, Better Homes and Gardens marketing department, gets them ready for me, you know, for print. And then I print those at Signtex in Tomball. It's a local business, and I've known them for over 30 years. And they also do my koozies. So any printing I have typically goes to them. And like the screen that used to be on the back of my Jeep, that came from them. So they are local. If they're online, check them out. They're very reasonably priced, and they're a hometown Tomball bunch out there. So, and they do they take the marketing that our company does, no problem, and prints what I have billboards up in Tomball that they've done, a vinyl sign at the Tomball Little League Park that they just did for me. So I just like to use them. They're good.
And for those of you that are getting new signs, there are rules that Trek has about how the company's logo has to be on it, how big it is. There are colors that Better Homes and Gardens has a specific green. So you should have, before you print something that your manager's going to come and say, you can't use that, you have to throw them away. Be sure to check with the manager or the marketing department as far as if you're complying or not. We've got a question that I don't know what the answer is. So anybody can chime in, but does anybody do open houses with builders?
I did at first. I've called them recently, just with us not having enough open houses, and they said that most of them said they weren't allowing it right now, and it wasn't because they didn't want us doing it. It's just that they weren't doing it because of COVID. So, but yeah, when I first started, I did quite a few for one particular builder. You're going to scare people when they walk in because they don't expect you to be sitting in there in a lawn chair. They think they're walking in an empty house.
So how did that work? Or were they kind of confused as why is a Gary Green agent in a new home? Or was that,
yeah,
they were kind of confused? What?
I just talked to him. I just told him the truth. I was like, I'm here to assist you if you have a home to sell or you need any assistance with purchasing this home. And
of course, our sellers are paying us $1 gazillion to list their house. So we would want to first choose to have an open house to get exposure for people that are paying us a lot of money instead of a builder who's not paying us a lot of money. But I suppose, did you just asked them and then you just were there? And because I know there are people that have gotten new business that way.
And it
Anybody?
was a long, I mean, it was years ago. It was when I first started. So I haven't done it in years, but I did inquire about it, and just right now, just because we were having so much trouble finding homes to hold open. So just looking for another source to find buyers.
Okay, so that's all the questions I have, and we have some time left. If you want to unmute and just go ahead and ask questions, we'll see how this goes, of whoever you wanted to ask it with, and then we'll see how many we have, and then after that we'll or is there anything that Suzanne or Sally or you would like to say, like one other piece of advice before we open it up, that you didn't say that you'd say, hey, you're new and this is what I want you to know? Is there anything, Lucia, that you can think of?
I mean, really what I said. I mean, you're going to get a lot of people at open houses right now, but if nobody shows up or you don't sell the house that day, don't beat yourself up. You're still being there and putting the signs out and opening the door. You're still doing what you need to be doing. So just stick with it.
People have come to me and I say, why don't you do open houses? And they go, oh, they don't work for me. I get people, but I've never sold one. Can I assume that they're doing something wrong at the open house? Can I assume that they're not having enough open houses? Can I assume it's both? Should they be getting some leads if they're holding open houses? What do you think, Sally?
I think you have to keep in mind that sometimes this is a long haul game. And one of a repeat client that I've had, I met at one of my open houses in Champion Forest. They just moved here from Dallas. They just signed a 12-month lease on a property in Champions. And so they weren't going to be ready to buy for 12 months. But I met him. I enjoyed talking to him. I stayed in touch with him for 12 months. And at the end of the 12-month lease, they used me to purchase a home. And then he wound up changing jobs and they wanted to move closer to his new office. So I sold that house for them and helped them buy the next one. So even though it was a 12-month lead time before I got that business with them, I enjoyed meeting them and it was definitely worth keeping up with them. So I think a lot of times you feel like, oh, I just need some immediate business, and we all need some immediate business. But as I say, I'm going to need the paycheck 12 months from now, just as much as I do today. So I think you have to keep in mind that sometimes you're building these relationships and meeting people, and they may not be ready today or tomorrow, but if you stay in touch with them, keep your name in front of them as a real estate professional, when they are ready, there'll be somebody and they know you and they'll call you.
Well, follow up is the key. And that's why Impact is so great if you guys aren't using it, because it's so easy to call somebody 2 or 3 times. They don't answer, and then you just kind of forget about calling them. And with Impact, even if you just have it set up that you're going to be reminded to call them every 3 months or every 6 months or something, it works. What about you, Suzanne? What would you say if somebody said, well, I had some and I can't get them to sign in and no one calls me back? And do you think could it be a training issue? Is it they're holding the wrong ones open? Is it expectations of it? If somebody doesn't buy from you that day, it's not successful, or what do you think?
So I think you have to go into all of it with your glass half full. You can get no's on the property desk. You can get no's at open houses. You can get no's at cold calling. You get no's. It is what it is. So that's just one part of the business, in my opinion. It's a fairly large part of the business, but I think you have to keep plugging along, and you have to work hard at all of it, not just the open houses and the follow-up. And I'm with Sally. It's a long haul game. One of my clients that at that Ashridge Park house, I met 3 customers that became my clients. One of them turned into 2 listings and 4 purchases because they loved me and they referred me. That was amazing to me. So I think you have to put yourself out there, and it's your business. You're working, and you're not going to get every one of them, but there's a success in every day at an open house. Whether you just went to the new area and it's a new area for you that you've just checked out and went, okay, I didn't really know this was here. I mean, so I always look for the positives, and I hope that my personality shines through to the customers that are coming through the house. And if that's not the house, I'm always thinking about what house, that I come across would work for them. And I reach out to them about that. I actually have a house that's coming up that I have several in mind that, because we have a lot of buyers and not a lot of listings. So I'm thinking about who I'm going to, directly put into that property once we get it listed and live and in an open house. So I don't know. I think open houses work, but you have to work at them too.
I can't miss this opportunity to ask you guys to try to give our company agents a little leg up. I'm not saying not to be, that your fiduciary duty is to get the best buyer for your seller, and that's number one. But if you'll let us know, if you'll let your fellow agents know by email, and I guess some of you back agents gone away, it hasn't in our office, and say, I'm getting this in a week, so that our agents can reach out to people they know. I don't think that it's the bad thing for us to take advantage of the fact that we are the largest listing company. So I know people come up to me all the time and say, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get this. And then the next minute someone says, I can't find a buyer for a house that's like this. And, if we could get those people together, it'd be great. Okay, I'm going to open it up, and we've got 15 minutes left, or 14, and see if anybody has any questions verbally that are comments that you want to make or something to add. We've got a lot of talent in this group. We had about 60 people. Is there anybody that would like to ask another question? Or
I have a question.
All right, Linda.
I just wanted to see if anybody on here has any experience with builder open houses. I've asked one or two builders if my partner and I could hold open houses for them. And the response that I've gotten so far is, as soon as you sell one or two of our houses, we'll consider letting you start doing open houses. Is that pretty common, or is that I just picked the wrong two builders, or?
The builders are on their high horse. The builders are going to remember the day that they treated us like this. They're in a pretty, they don't think they need us as much as they used to. But anybody have an answer to that? Anybody on here had any experience with any of the builders?
I mean, I'm getting no.
No.
So,
I think that, you could try just, if you're probably asking the on-site salesperson, right? You're not asking the manager. So the on-site salespeople, you might just continue to do it. And they sit in that house, that model house, morning, noon, and night. Even with a busy market, there's a lot of times that if you brought them some bagels, or you dropped in with something, or chit-chatted about the market with them, if you did it enough, they may say, okay. You just have to build a relationship with them. And then you can say, well, I didn't sell one, but let's take a look at the number of homes Gary Green sold.
Right. That's a good idea.
I'm
Thank
sure
you.
it's a boatload. And also say, we're bringing all these relocation people in. I would think maybe you'd want to have some of these HP people looking at your models. Something like that. Anybody else? Who else has a question?
I have a comment.
Yes, Glenda.
Okay, so in December of 2006, my son, who's my partner, was doing an open house in League City on the water, beautiful home, but it was a Sunday after Thanksgiving, and he was very upset because it was like one of his best friends said, you have to do the open house. Well, he had a man come in from California, loved the house, they FaceTimed his wife, and they bought it. But here's the next part. They have decided to move back to California, and they called this week for us to list their house. Yeah. And also they brought his brother and another couple that bought from us. That's our best story ever. But I find that very interesting. We kept in touch with them, but we didn't do a lot of phone calls and here it is.
Yeah. Anybody else have any questions that they want to ask? Don't be shy. This is your chance. These ladies together sold $60-70 million worth of real estate last year. They know what they're doing. So
I have something to add about the video that I meant to say earlier that, it was on my bucket list, I guess, my goal list to do videos, and I finally got around to it. 2019, the beginning of 2019, and that first one took about lots of tries. Just let me tell you, the sun was up when I started and it was down by the time I got done with one that I thought was good. And then, so I had a conversation with one of the gals in this office, and she said, well, Suzanne, we were talking about video and how we were scared to do it, and I don't like how I look on blah, blah, blah. And she said, but that's who you are. That's what people see when they see you with their own eyes. That is the real time video. So that's kind of what got me over it. And then some of my videos are great. Some of them are good. Some of them are okay. And some of them you don't see. So I just think to get yourself out there and to make people aware of who you are and feel comfortable with you. I think that's the goal, but it's not for everybody. For sure. I just wanted to put that out there for anybody that's having anxiety about it, because I absolutely did too. Sometimes I still do. And but I think about it, what I'm going to say. I think about what I'm going to do. If I see opportunities, I think that through during the week. And if I'm at an open house or wherever I'm at, I like throw down for a video and then I put it in the can, so to speak. And then I push it out on my social media when the timing is right. Because there's always an opportunity to show yourself in real estate and really just kind of stay top of the mind.
Well, I think that the hard part is setting yourself apart. We're always trying to set ourselves apart from the other 48,000 realtors out there. And people are reluctant to do video. You see, everybody talks about it, but in this office, I don't know, we've got 150 agents, and I think maybe there's 5 that do it. And so that would be a point of difference that just could catch somebody's eye. It could be something that on a listing that you do that no one else does, or that somebody, saw you one more time. And so again, but you don't have to go all in on, first day. It's just, you can do baby steps, right? And then when you don't die, like Lucia did her cookies, it was very cute. It was a great idea. She didn't die. Nobody, she's fine. She'll probably get people there. And then maybe the next one, feel a little bit better about it, right? Who else? We've got just a few minutes left. Anybody else? Okay, well, I want to thank these 3 ladies so much. They are really busy. And Suzanne and Sally and Lucia, thank you so much. You're just a true credit to it. Thank you all who are attending. Hope you got some good ideas and can share them with people. And if you can think of any other topic you'd like to do next month about how to get listings, that's what we need to be talking about other than open houses. Just email your manager and we'll get some experts from our company. Has the best agents ever. So anyway, unless anybody else wants to say anything, I think we'll just let you guys enjoy St. Patrick's Day and get back to work.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.